Australia Day, January 26, 1966. Adelaide, South Australia. It's a public holiday, it's summer, it's a Wednesday. Jim and Nancy Beaumont send their 3 kids, Jane, Arnna, and Grant, ages 9, 7, and 4, on a short bus ride to Glenelg Beach, a trip the kids had done before. It cost them 5 cents each way on the bus. They had enough money for the fare home and a meat pie for lunch.
That is an extremely normal morning.
An extremely normal Australian summer morning. Jim was going to pick them up later. The kids never came home.
How long ago was that?
Almost 60 years, and nobody has ever been charged. No remains have ever been found. 3 children walked onto a beach on a busy public holiday and simply ceased to exist.
Welcome to HILLarious Media. I'm Dylan.
I'm Cindy, and today we are going to Australia because the Beaumont children case is one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries on Earth, and it deserves more attention outside of Australia than it gets. Jane Beaumont was 9, the eldest. By all accounts, responsible, sensible, the kind of kid you'd trust to look after her younger siblings, and her parents did trust her. Arnna was 7, Grant was 4, the only boy, the baby of the 3.
And this was a normal thing? Kids going to the beach alone?
Completely normal for 1966. This is the era before stranger danger, before the world felt dangerous in the way it does now. Kids in Adelaide routinely went places alone, walked to school alone, played outside all day. The Beaumont children had taken this exact bus trip before without incident.
So nobody would have thought twice about them being at the beach unsupervised.
Nobody. And Glenelg Beach on Australia Day was packed. Hundreds of people. It was not a remote or isolated location. 3 children disappeared in the middle of a crowd on a national holiday.
That detail is what gets me. It wasn't a dark alley. It was a beach full of people.
A beach full of people who, as it turned out, saw quite a lot and reported it afterwards. Multiple witnesses saw the children that day. Several saw them with a man.
Tell me about the man.
Tall, lean, blond, mid to late 30s. Multiple witnesses independently described someone who matched this description interacting with the children on the beach. The children seemed comfortable with him, not scared, not being pulled away. They appeared to know him or to have warmed to him quickly.
Which suggests he was good with kids.
Which suggests he was very good with kids. One witness saw him lying on the beach playing with the children. Another saw them eating lunch, which matters because the children had only enough money for their bus fare and a meat pie. But witnesses saw them eating what appeared to be a bought lunch. Someone had bought them food.
He bought them lunch.
He bought them lunch. On a beach full of families on a public holiday, he blended in completely.
When did the family realize something was wrong?
Jim went to pick the children up at the agreed time and they weren't there. At first, he assumed they'd taken an earlier bus home. He went home, they weren't there either. By evening, it was clear something had happened and police were called.
And the search?
Enormous. Immediately enormous. This was a huge news story in Australia within days. Thousands of volunteers searched the area. Police conducted one of the largest investigations in South Australian history and found nothing. Not a shoe, not a piece of clothing, not a single physical trace of where the children went after the beach.
3 children and a man vanished from a crowded public beach without leaving a trace.
Not one physical trace. And Jim and Nancy Beaumont, I want to spend a moment on them because they are, like the Sodder parents, absolutely heartbreaking figures. They never accepted their children were dead. They kept searching for decades.
Did they have other children?
No, Jane, Arnna, and Grant were their only children. And Jim and Nancy largely retreated from public life after the disappearance. The media attention was intense and often cruel. There were accusations over the years that Jim was somehow involved, which were investigated and dismissed, but the cloud never fully lifted.
People suspected the father?
There were whispers over the years. He was cleared, but in small communities, cleared doesn't always mean forgotten. Jim Beaumont died in 1995 without answers. Nancy lived until 2019. She was in her 90s. She never knew what happened to her children.
53 years of not knowing.
53 years. And she gave very few interviews. She protected herself and her grief fiercely, which I think is completely understandable. Over nearly 6 decades, there have been numerous suspects. I want to run through the main ones because each one is a whole story in itself.
Let's go.
The most consistently named suspect is a man named Arthur Stanley Brown, a convicted child sex offender from Queensland who matched the physical description of the man on the beach. He was investigated multiple times. He died in 1995 without ever being charged. His daughter has publicly stated she believes he was responsible.
His own daughter?
His own daughter, which is an extraordinary thing to carry. Another significant suspect was Derek Percy, a convicted child killer who was in the Adelaide area at the time and who investigators believe may have been responsible for multiple child disappearances across Australia in the 1960s. He died in prison in 2013, also without being charged in the Beaumont case.
So the two most likely suspects both died without charges.
Both died without charges. And here is where it gets strange. In 1966, the same year the children disappeared, a Dutch clairvoyant named Gerard Croiset was flown to Australia at significant expense to help find the children.
A clairvoyant? They flew in a clairvoyant.
From the Netherlands, on a plane, to Adelaide. He was internationally famous. He had apparently assisted police in Europe with missing persons cases. He arrived, he made various pronouncements about where the children might be found. He identified a particular factory site as significant.
And
The site was excavated. Nothing was found. Croiset went back to the Netherlands. The factory site was excavated again in 2013. Again, nothing.
they excavated the psychic's tip twice.
Twice, 47 years apart. Both times, nothing.
I respect the commitment to thoroughness. I question the original decision.
The original decision to fly a clairvoyant from the Netherlands is a choice that was made, yes. There was also a man named Bevan von Einem who was convicted of the murder of a teenager in Adelaide in the 1980s and was suspected of involvement in several other cases of missing boys from the same era. Whether he was connected to the Beaumont case has never been established.
So you have Brown, Percy, and von Einem. 3 serious suspects, none charged, all either dead or imprisoned for other crimes.
And none of them ever confessed or provided information that led to the children. If one of them was responsible, and investigators have leaned most heavily toward Brown in recent years, the full truth died with them.
You mentioned at the top that this case changed Australia. What do you mean by that?
The Beaumont case is widely credited, or blamed, depending on how you look at it, with ending the era of childhood freedom in Australia. Before January 26, 1966, it was completely unremarkable for children to roam freely, go to the beach alone, walk to school without an adult. After, everything changed.
One case changed the entire culture of childhood.
One case. The phrase stranger danger didn't exist yet. The idea that a public beach on a busy holiday could be dangerous, that wasn't part of how Australians thought. And then 3 children went to the beach and didn't come home, and the world felt different. Parents stopped letting their children roam. The culture of independent childhood essentially ended.
That's an enormous legacy for a case that was never solved.
It's an enormous legacy, and it's worth asking whether that legacy is entirely positive, because the freedom those children had to take a bus, to go to the beach, to have a childhood that wasn't supervised every minute, there's something valuable in that too, and it was lost.
Lost because of one man on one beach did something unforgivable.
Lost because of one man whose name we still don't officially know.
What do you think happened?
I think Arthur Stanley Brown. The physical description matches, the geography works, the pattern of behavior fits, and his own daughter believes it. I think he took those children, and the truth went with him when he died in 1995.
I find myself agreeing, and I find that deeply unsatisfying, because it means there is no justice coming. The case is technically still open, but the most likely perpetrator is dead.
Still open. South Australian police have never closed it. They review it periodically with new forensic techniques. But without remains, without physical evidence, without a living person to charge, it is very hard to see how it resolves.
Jane would be 67 this year, Arnna 65, Grant 62.
They would have had whole lives. That's what I keep coming back to. Whole lives.
Jane, Arnna, and Grant Beaumont. We say their names.
We say their names. Thank you for being here for episode 17, everyone. If this one resonated, share it. These kids deserve to be known outside of Australia.
Subscribe, leave a review, keep the case suggestions coming. I'm Dylan.
I'm Cindy. Take care of each other.